You're watching Roll for Crit, and on this Kickstarter preview, we're looking at A Viking's Tale from the company Rune Raccoon. In this one, each player has their own clan of Vikings, and you're trying to defeat creatures and possibly each other in order to gain the most fame and glory for your family.
Each game, you will have your own clan of Vikings. That would be 5 cards. These clans will be consisted of 5 cards. 4 of them in the clan will have the same numbers and abilities as every other clan. The art's different, but mechanically, they're the same. However, each clan has a unique Jarl leader here. They will be their 5 value card, and they have their own ability, so you can read those that give you a different twist and unique player power. In addition to Vikings, you're also going to be playing Destiny and equipment cards. Destiny cards come from this deck. They will be played later on and can change the outcome of battles in your favor or maybe against your opponent. Now, the equipment cards, they're equipments. They're going to be things that you can use throughout the game, usually to buff your Vikings in order to defeat these terrifying monsters.
In turn order, each player will have the opportunity to place a Viking and 1 or more equipment cards in front of one of these creatures. In turn order, each player will have the opportunity to take a Viking card from their hand, plus equipment cards if they want to, could be 1 or more, and put them together in front of one of these creatures. Each creature deck is different, has a different type of creature, and the top card is always going to be face up, so you will know what you're going up against. Each player can play against a different pile, or they can play against the same. They'll go in this turn order over here, and then you're going to have to do some math later on to determine which player actually gets to attack that creature. But let's say players went for a different row. You'll also have fewer creatures out if you have fewer players. This is technically set up for a 4-player, but we're just looking at the 2 of us right now just for the demonstration. Now, once everyone's done that, you also get to play those Destiny cards we talked about. If anyone has them in hand, they can place 1 or more Destiny cards in the different columns between the creature deck and the player's Vikings in that column. And then once everyone has done so, then you flip everything out. So you see exactly what everyone's working with, and you compare the strength totals of your Vikings plus any equipment they may have to the strength on the creature in question. So you add them up, and of course you are trying to exceed their value in order to defeat them. Now again, these Destiny cards can throw all kinds of things in the mix here. They might hurt you or they might help you depending on who put them there. They also of course have abilities on every card. So some of them will just allow you to draw more if you defeat them, or some of the more complicated ones may have you doing more damage, swapping cards around, looking through the deck. You could change all kinds of things out. You could even, if you're in the same column as someone else, potentially assassinate them, and you actually will be fighting that Viking instead of the creature there. Each player is also going to have their own score sheet, and you're going to have to reference this and fill some of these squares in as you're playing. So you can see there are 4 columns, 1 for each creature. They all match up to that. And let's say you beat the creature in this column using your craftsman. Then you would go to the craftsman section and mark off 1 square where that creature was. If you manage to get 3 in a row, either vertically or horizontally in one of these areas, you get a bonus amount of points. It's your fame point bonus, depending on which type of Viking you use. So you might get between 1 and 5 extra points. This is your point tracker. And of course, you also just get 1 flat point bonus just for defeating a creature. So you're always going to get a little bit of fame for managing to take something out.
If a player is able to hit 31 fame points, or if one of these enemy decks runs out, the game ends. And of course, you'll see who has the most points if this runs out, but if someone hits 31 first, they have the most points. That is the gist of the game. It's all about trying to defeat monsters with certain cards to try to maybe line up and get those bonus points, while also being a little bit careful about how you choose certain areas. Because, for example, that dagger we showed earlier can take someone out and assassinate them. And of course, these Destiny cards can be very mean. Mm-hmm. And these monsters, while most of them are pretty just different number shifting, like these usually always need a ranged weapon, for example, there are bosses in each deck who are much bigger and have much more potent abilities. So you're going to have to keep an eye out for those.
Yeah, there are also consequences if you maybe you think that you're going to be able to defeat a monster, but some twist, some destiny card changes that. Your Viking can become wounded. If they're wounded, then they're removed from your hand, and you need to spend 2 destiny cards without resolving their effects in order to get them back. A card can also become exhausted. For instance, all the Jarls, to use their abilities, you exhaust them. Exhausting means that they go face up or backwards in your hand, so other players can see you have an exhausted card, and you won't get to use them for a round. They still count against your hand size, though, so it's kind of an interesting dynamic. You have a max hand size of 7, so exhausted Vikings can be an issue if there's something you really want to use.
What's interesting is, like, for example, the Jarls are very big, and they tie the bosses most of the powers. Ignoring anything else being added. But a lot of it becomes like, oh, the warrior's the weaker one, but he gets the equipment. Maybe if I can bank some equipment to put on him, then I can get that bonus 5 points if I can defeat 3 more undead. And of course, if your opponents see you have, like, you only need 1 more undead to defeat, they're going to be like, now's the time I play that Destiny to ruin your day. Yeah,
it's interesting because you're not just going for, oh, this is the most beneficial to me because, I don't know, I can beat that one more easily. Like you said, each player almost has their own kind of like roll and rate game going on the side. And this will really kind of steer you in a direction of which creatures you want to take on at any given time. And yeah, like you said, the warrior is much weaker, but if you can buff them up, you're going to get more points, and maybe you like their bonus a lot. You get to draw more cards with some of these. So it's not just, oh, higher power is better.
And of course, player count's going to matter. We didn't go too much into it, but what pretty much happens is first in line gets first dibs unless someone behind them, assuming they don't assassinate you with the dagger, is stronger. So it becomes an interesting game of like, I really need this undead, but I wasn't first. Do I think I can overpower the Vikings in front of me?
Yeah, so it's a very, I think, a different feeling kind of card game. It's not like a typical kind of battle card game. You're usually not directly facing each other, although you're definitely messing with each other, especially if you have 4 players, there's probably a lot more likelihood that people are going to be throwing around negative effects on you. But a lot of times it is kind of deciding, should I just try to help myself, or should I try to mess the other person up? Like you said, looking at, which things they're going for can definitely be important. Or maybe you don't want the game to end yet, so you specifically aren't attacking the wolves because you don't want that deck to run out just yet. So it has a very different feel to it, almost like an area control sort of feeling with the, like, I have the most points here, so I'm going to overtake it, versus if someone else is competing with you there.
I would say maybe not area control, it's set collecting, because you're defeating monsters with specific cards, but it's not simply just, I have 3 green cards. It's, okay, I've defeated the undead twice with my elder, but I defeated the wolves 3 times with each class, or twice with each class. I defeated once more. The craftsman defeated both of these. If he defeats an undead, that's 3 in a row that way. Yeah. If this defeats 1 more undead, it's maybe 3 that way. So there's a bit more like deciding what set to go on with that. That isn't simply just, I need another piece of sushi if you're playing Sushi Go or something.
Yeah, no, it definitely has that aspect too in a big way. Yeah, I mean, it's not literally area control, but I kind of had that sort of feeling in a little bit of playing it. I think that's an interesting thing about it, is that it's not so easy to define. For a relatively simple card game that, you can see these are all the cards in the game other than the extra character cards, player cards that they have in their hand. So pretty small, comes in a small box, but a fair amount of different things that can happen depending on how you choose to assign your cards and everything. So if you're a Viking fan and you want something that's maybe a little bit different, a card game that comes in a smaller package, then you can take a look at A Viking's Tale, which is on Kickstarter right now if you're watching this video at the time of its release. Of course, we'll have a link in the description below, and you can take a look and let us know what you think about it in the comments section.
We'd love to hear from you. But until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit. You have reached the end of the video, but before you go, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and maybe try to help us out on Patreon if you can. If you want to hear more from us, we've also got a podcast. This is released weekly, and there'll be links down below for wherever you want to listen to podcasts.